right, we are off and recording. Welcome back to Editors in Exile. How's it going, Neil? Finally, Neil's doing the X. I can't do the X because I got this. Okay, now I can.
I had to default over to myself since you couldn't do it.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Hey, no problem.
Well, how's it going? We all heard the big news that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. How did you find out Charlie Kirk got shot?
I was on my daily Twitter feed going through things and saw Charlie Kirk shot trending.
Mm-hmm.
And I started following up on it, and it just caught me off guard. I didn't expect that they would do it.
Yeah.
I think he had an idea though that anything was possible. Just the way he would talk at events and interviews and things. He was ready for something, and he knew he was a target. I just don't think he expected it to happen the way it did.
Wait, so Charlie Kirk would mention in interviews that he feel as if he will be attacked someday?
He knew he carried a target from his views from the left. And before I go on, I'm not going to be one of those that comes out and says that the left did the assassination. But I do believe they were very contributory to the mindset that did what happened.
Yeah, do you think the left contributed with their rhetoric calling people who are conservative Nazis and fascists?
For 10 plus years, the conservatives have had to face being called, as you said, Nazis and extremists and Hitler-esque. And yet you would try to point out to them that if they really wanted to get down to the nitty gritty, the things that Hitler was doing, and I don't want to get on a tangent, but the things pre-World War II and the Hitler approach to things was very similar in things to Democrat rhetoric and the far left. I won't say Dems as a whole, but the far left aspect of the party. So yeah, I think they had a big connection to what happened, but I'm not going to come out and out blame them. I just don't want to hear from them their pleas for prayer and things like that, when many of them that are doing that are the same ones that said anytime you can harass a conservative, people like Maxine Waters, harass them wherever they're at, assault them, and then the buildup of not being called Nazis and that kind of thing, and Kirk being considered called hateful with the things he said.
Yeah.
And which I'll get into in a little bit, but a lot of that, I think, fed into the mind of whoever did this, and in their mind justified them taking out a key figure of the conservative movement.
Right. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, because all the people who are saying to pray for Charlie Kirk hated this man's guts. And honestly, I feel like they're just only saying nice things about Charlie Kirk because he's been killed. But when I saw the news, it said that Charlie Kirk was shot at. So I didn't think it was anything serious, and I thought it was just like some kind of inside event, and shots were heard and Charlie Kirk was safe, and I'll be hearing Charlie Kirk talk about the shooting that took place. But I was watching this YouTube live where somebody was like, Charlie Kirk is dead. And although it wasn't confirmed, but everybody was saying that it didn't look right. And some people saw the video that was circulating on X. And I would actually encourage people who are posting the video just to take it down, because it's really gruesome.
Yeah,
And
I
he does
saw
have,
it.
yeah, he does have children. I don't like, we wouldn't want that to get in. We don't want his children to see it. And just to get in the hands of people who are evil and celebrating his death already, I just don't want that footage going around on X or social media and period. But I was trying to keep up with it. And then once I got the notification that it was confirmed that he was dead, it honestly felt like somebody just stabbed me, really. And I tried not to react to it. And I was with my wife at the time, so I didn't try to tell her too, because she's a big fan of Charlie Kirk as well and his pro-life stance. And she found out on her own because she ended up looking at her phone, and then she got a little teary-eyed, and we just honestly went home and talked about Charlie Kirk and just how important he was in our conservative journey, how he always made some really intriguing points whenever he debated with someone. And because I remember at the time I was about to graduate from Full Sail University, which is a very liberal college, and he would always say how college is a scam. And that always made me uncomfortable because I'm like, I'm about to pay all these loans. Like, I have this projected fantasy of what I'm supposed to be in life. And I got this guy, Charlie Kirk, coming around telling me that it's all a scam.
Well, the thing,
Oh,
good.
go ahead.
I
Well,
was
I,
just
I
going to
was,
say the thing that about Charlie Kirk with colleges. I mean, obviously that was his main focus, trying to reach young people. And when he would do the rallies at the different universities and try to meet with people, he was trying to encourage the students to think, to use their
yeah,
own ability to reason through, and not to be caught up in the propaganda of university professors that were spewing leftist garbage. And these students, a lot of them were just getting caught up in it, and he was trying to encourage them to think through things on their own, to question everything that's being said. He even wanted people to question what he had to say, people other than their depraved hearts at times. But he never acted as if he hated people. He
yeah,
hated issues, he hated positions that contradicted Christian values, American values, values of just right and wrong. He wanted people to look past the veneer and to see things for what they were meant to be. You know, as he put it one time, evil would not exist if it weren't for moral standards existing. Because if there are no moral standards, which many of us believe come from God, if there are no moral standards, then evil can't exist because there's nothing to compare it against. But he believed very much in standards, having a clarity, a position of following principles, and he wanted people to live their lives that was honest and true and godly and clean and wholesome, not to follow the rhetoric, the transgender and all that
yeah.
stuff that was not even based on truth. It was based on others trying to manipulate, and he was very much against manipulation. But the left would call it hate, and yet he taught nothing but love of humankind and God's love toward us.
Yeah, because especially because when I uh, came across Charlie Kirk, I was still really liberal. And you are right about one thing is that I for sure wasn't living my own life. I mean, I was completely brainwashed by liberal media. I was brainwashed by my parents who was telling me what to think and how to feel. And that honestly influenced my decision to go to college in general. I was told to go to college. I was told that I should be doing certain things in my life without questioning it at all. And Charlie Kirk, what he was really good at was just honestly speaking the truth. He invited other ideas and opinions, and he had so many friendly debates with people. And although people are so evil, and I mean, they don't want to see anything from this guy but to see him dead, but he still sat there, even through the name calling, saying the truth and just being completely aware and just, and honestly, just, yeah, really talking people out of their hell.
Well, and the thing is, Charlie Kirk looked at people as opportunities to try and reach, and especially his focus was on young people. But he very much wanted what he had to say reach an entire populace. You know, he started Turning Point USA as a focus on universities and the students and everything. But the principles, and I think very solid principles that he tried to get out there was for all generations. I
Yeah,
mean, I had my own set of principles and standards that were very much conservative. But even I, at my age, learned from this young man
yeah,
deeper things that I hadn't even considered. And he got you to think. If you were an honest person with yourself, he got you to actually think. Maybe you would not come to a point of agreeing with him, but as long as you took the time, take the time to
yeah.
listen to each other. And that's where we come into an issue with the left, but I don't want to get into that right now. I don't this is about remembering the man that stood for his love of God. He definitely loved Jesus. He knew, and he propagated his belief anytime without shame, without fear. He wanted people to know that Jesus died on the cross for their sins and gave them opportunity for new life. And I even fall short sometimes in the way I live my life the way I should as a Christian. But he was always bold about presenting the gospel. It didn't matter where, if it was one on one with somebody or on a stage or in an interview. That was one thing you were not going to get him to stop. And
Yeah.
that right there talks to about the love that he had for people. Why, if he was so hateful, why would he try to share with them the truth of the way to heaven? I know some people are not going to go with what I'm saying because they don't even have a belief in God, but you cannot deny Charlie Kirk's passion for the Lord and for where he knew he was going. And that's why he understood that he had a target, but he was not fearful of what would happen. If anything, he was maybe concerned about the well-being of his family afterwards, but he also knew that God and others would take care of them too.
Yeah. What do you think about them still not knowing who the killer is?
Well, last I had heard, and again, there's been so much on there. They at one time they thought they had the person,
Yeah.
somebody in
Did you
the
see it? I think it was like an older guy, and they were.
yeah. And I told my wife initially, well, they've arrested somebody that was middle aged, and then I hear, well, they're saying he's not the one. But apparently, from what I've heard recently on the news, they have the weapon and they have fingerprints. So all they have to do is match it up with technology the way it is, the NCIC and everything. They should be able to come down with an identification in short order. So the
Yeah.
shooter, this shooter might be running free right now, but that's going to be a short lived because the assassination of somebody like Charlie Kirk or a president or any other leader, and it doesn't matter which side of the aisle they are going to put all their brands into the fire to find this person. And I won't
Yeah.
say a he or she because we don't know which. It could have been a female. Females know how to
Yeah.
shoot just as well as men do.
Yeah. It could have been. Did you see a video a Daily Mail posted it, which was footage of briefly after the shooting, someone was running on the roof nearby?
Yeah, and there was somebody actually showed footage describing, hey, there's somebody on the roof. And they pointed their finger saying, he ran from here and there he is now. Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was after or before that they were just taking footage and the somebody moving on the roof of a building caught their attention while they were getting ready to go to the rally. So it really didn't articulate what time the video was taken, but there is footage of somebody actually being on the roof. And that could be the very situation where they found the rifle.
Yeah, I honestly just think that our conservatives are being attacked. I feel like we haven't learned from Trump's attempted assassination. I mean, Thomas Matthew Crooks was on the roof as well with a sniper. He killed himself, but it's like we had that close call. We have Charlie Kirk now, and we even just have MAGA supporters who are being attacked. What do you think about this political violence that just seems to be going up another level now?
It's ridiculous. That I think this will galvanize conservatives even more. I would pray that it doesn't galvanize them to do things they'll regret and will cast a shadow upon the conservatives as a whole. I think restraint is necessary, but I would pray that this would bring about better ability to dialogue. The left, the problem with them is they don't want people to disagree with them. That's why they always push the rhetoric of getting in the face of conservatives. Wherever they're at, harass them.
Yeah,
Conservatives don't say that. They don't say do
yeah,
that. They don't say go get in the face of Joe Biden. Don't go get in the face of Kamala.
yeah.
And if you see him, you can try to have rational discussions. But the screaming banshee approach is not what we're supposed to be about.
Yeah, even with them preaching diversity, we all know that it's mainly just people on the left. They don't like conservatives at all. This is why they say to constantly approach them and change their mind. It's not have a discussion and find some middle ground.
Tolerance is not their motto that they can honestly push because they are far from it. But again, I would hope and I would pray that violence to any end is not an answer. If anything, it just enhances and it builds up the boiling point within a country. People have to be willing to actually talk. You know, you don't have to compromise your principles, but you don't have to be firing a gun at each other either.
Yeah.
You know, we just yesterday here in Colorado, we just had another shooting at a high school. And this time the shooter was as they put it, wasn't even old enough to drive. And he took his life, or she, they haven't really identified, but that teen took their own life, but they wounded two that are in critical condition. And, you know, I don't know if this correlates to what happened with Charlie. You know, if somebody took the opportunity, it could have been just somebody, like I said, a young shooter. They could have been someone that was just felt bullied, like some of
Yeah.
these situations. But this increase in violence has got to stop. The young lady in Charlotte who was stabbed by this mentally ill person, that just a few days before this assassination of Charlie Kirk, and the notice that it's given to our society about this hate has got to stop. You know, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. And I guess we can talk about that too. The Ukrainian refugee. I think it's just completely ironic that she escaped the war just to be stabbed by a guy who was supposed to be in jail. And I mean, he had 14 prior arrests, and I feel like only conservatives are talking about that it's completely a race issue. If you watch the video, he stabbed this poor girl for no entire reason, and then says that,
I killed a white girl. I killed a
yeah, I
white
got that white girl, and she called me the slur, which didn't happen. And I also read that he could have had schizophrenia and that he had like some pending mental health evaluation, but although he had that evaluation, he's still out on the streets. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Then after he does the stabbing, she's there bleeding out, and there are a few people in that space. In that, was it a bus, a train? I don't
A train
train, but in that space, and nobody, not one person,
does
went
anything.
to. You know, maybe she wasn't going to survive, but you could at least go and render some kind of help, aid, comfort in the last minutes, you know, whatever. Stop being so isolated. Stop being afraid. Oh, but he had a knife. He could have attacked. So stinking what? I am so sick of our cowardly mentality. You know, I get now somebody sees this and they say, oh, I know where he lives. Well, for him, but
Yeah,
I'm
no, but
so
you
tired
are
of
right.
this lack of empathy, lack of compassion. And it comes back to the very thing of what we started this talk about. She didn't deserve that. Didn't deserve that. The two kids at the high school yesterday, they didn't deserve that. This mentality, it's just evil. It's the heart of man that has been corrupted.
Yeah, literally, we're supposed to be loving one another. Like, could you imagine if the Ukrainian refugee was black and all the people that was surrounding her were white and the killer was white? This would be all over the
Oh,
news.
yeah.
And we'll be talking about this like 30 years from now, and it'll be like the situation on a train where a white supremacist attacks some innocent black girl, and these KKK bystanders didn't do anything about it because they wanted to enjoy it, or something evil and crazy like that. But just because it's some white girl and this murderer is black, then no one bats an eye. We give this man a soft blanket and just say,
Yeah.
oh, it's some systemic issue. And
Well,
it's
the Charlotte mayor just drove me nuts about this. She was trying to minimize what happened and said basically we need to feel for this attacker. He's in pain and things like that. And she tried to get the media to minimize the story on it. And in many cases they did. I don't know if because of her, but she's supposed to be a representation of the people of Charlotte, and her lack of compassion for the victim and the unreasonable support of the maniac. Yeah, he's a maniac,
yeah.
mentally ill. That's just totally ridiculous.
Yeah, they need to do their jobs. Like, they're supposed to be keeping us safe. Who wants to know that a guy who had 14 prior arrests and mental health evaluation. He should have either been in jail or some kind of mental institution. What do you think about this catch? What do you think about this catch and release system that's been going on in a lot of democratic cities?
That's just, I think it just goes back to, it's part of their agenda. They don't want to push the criminals being in prison. They know where their bread and butter is, so to speak. I mean, you got this clown in New York running, and what he has said, Mamdani, what he said that if he's in, he's going to shorten the terms of many in jail and release them out into the public. And he wants to minimize law enforcement and things of that nature. You know, the it's just the total mindset. But the catch and release is not, it's a danger to the citizens because they go in, you get a thought that, okay, he's going to go in, be processed, and face prosecution. But no, they just let him go with the belief that he's going to come back for his court date and everything. And halftime, they run off and they commit a crime, usually violent one again.
Yeah.
I don't think, first off, I don't think it's a constitutional approach, and secondly, it's a dangerous approach.
Yeah.
We
Doesn't
have
this all
incarceration for a reason.
Yeah, doesn't this all tie into the cashless bail system that these Democrats are doing, where they think it's unfair for poor people that think that they can't pay their bail,
Of
or that
course,
they'll have some unfair treatment versus someone who has more money than them and get arrested?
of course, and it represents the whole mindset of even people like some of the leftist billionaires that support and put into place some of these DAs, and they create this kind of mentality through the people that they put into legislation and other points of government. It's not a fair system. It's not justice. It's a revolving door. Nothing but a revolving door.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's 9/11 too. There's just so much been going on, and we also want to talk about that, an anniversary.
Yeah, yeah. I find
Yeah,
it.
we could talk about that for a little bit before I have to hop off in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, well, same here. I gotta go take care of some things. You don't need to
Okay.
put this little dialogue into the YouTube.
Oh yeah, no, I don't have to.
You know, I can make a face and stick my tongue out at you, and you can't put that in there. Well, you could, but I'd prefer you didn't.
You know, when 9/11 happened, I wasn't born yet. I was born on September 17, 2001.
Yeah, you are just a little wet nosed snot kid, aren't you? No, I was at home. I had worked, and it was a thing of me sleeping during the day. And my wife had come in and said they flew a plane into the one of the twin towers. And I'm just waking up, and she said, "What?" She turned on the TV, and there was footage of a plane flying into one of the buildings. And then while I'm watching, they're saying there's a plane headed for the other building, and sure enough, it was like, what's going on? At first, I thought it was just an accident, mid-air accident. They got off course or whatever, and they flew in the building. But then, second one happens, and they're okay. This is an attack. And then you hear later on about the Pentagon.
Yeah,
No, I just find it surprising that so many remember what happened and the death toll and who did it. And now, as we come back to remember it, these 20 plus years later, you've got a candidate for mayor in New York that is pushing the Muslim ideology. And it's like, how in the world can people forget what
yeah,
happened? Yeah, we should learn to, if we have Islam around us, let's try to be peaceful. But you don't elevate who they are, what they did, and we end up forgetting the tragedy of that day. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, we didn't 20 years later go and celebrate uh, the Japanese right away. We've learned
yeah,
to work with them and everything, but 9/11 is something we said we would never forget, and yet we're starting to forget.
yeah. Can you
There
talk about how different life was after 9/11? Like how we have
was a push for more patriotism was happening. People had come together more. There was a energy of This is American. We're going to stand for it. We're not going to let the enemy come in and destroy us. There was a love of country. The military was seeing recruitment go up. Young people were wanting to be a part of the protection of America. There was flags everywhere, and there were people were reaching out to each other to make sure that they were okay. Our first responders around the country were treated with more dignity and care because they knew what had occurred in New York and the many firefighters and others that had lost their lives trying to help in getting people out of those buildings. And every time they took a step in, they didn't know if it would be their last, with the building yet to come down. There was just more of a love of country that seemed to be mindful of the early days, 1776, and how we began
Yeah.
as a nation. And people put aside their differences about race and everything else. It wasn't until we started seeing certain people come into office as president again that that was starting to be pushed aside, and they were perpetuating the racial clashes and the divide between Democrat and Republican and things of that nature. It lasted, the euphoria and the excitement and the patriotism lasted for a while. But once they started voting in some of these people that were so bent on destroying that patriotic fervor, that compassion, that love of country, and where we are today. So, and in some ways, 9/11 did not bring about where we are, but it reminded some people that we can't have that closeness. We got to
Okay.
divide this country. And so they use that as a calling card to try and remind people, oh, but yes, that was a terrible thing, but you don't forget what that one side of the aisle is doing to us on this side, and just perpetuating the hate and the drive again.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What do you think the way Americans treated Muslim communities and how they mistaken Indians wearing turban for Muslims as well?
That's a hard one because each individual has to look at it their own way. But I think that we've seen such an aggressive nature from Islam, and we see what's happening in Europe, and we see what's happening in the UK, and this fierce drive of pushing their Sharia on. That we've, it's no wonder that people are resistant or apprehensive of when we hear about the Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah.
You have a Muslim community there that has outwardly and outspokenly called for the death to America. It's
Yeah.
hard to sympathize with a group that is determined to not only push the religion, but are insistent that if you don't accept them and take on their ways, they're going to become violent. We've seen that around the world, and if we don't catch it here, it's going to push more. Things in Texas, you had that Muslim, I don't know about their faith, but that leader in the Muslim faith going around in Houston
Yeah.
telling bar owners and restaurants, you need to stop selling pigs. You need to stop
Yep. I
selling
saw that.
alcohol, and threatening them that you have 30 days to end this. And it's like, who are you as a guest in this country to demand anything of that nature?
Right.
You learn to assimilate. If you don't want that in your life, fine. Preach it in your mosque, and your congregants don't have to do that. But don't be trying to shove your insistence on the American marketplace of what can be and can't be. It's no wonder they don't gain a positive following from people when they're being adamantly aggressive like that.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like some Muslims are peaceful and they
I,
love America and they want to stay here, but then you have those, honestly, I would say the majority who are just like extremists and like what you said, will say death to America. And we have 9/11, and that's still like honestly a stain on our country that will probably be never ever to get off. 39 minutes, we got to call it. It was good talking to you and
you're
talking to you
right. It
about,
was. It's always good to talk to me.
yeah. So you talk to yourself?
That or the cat. No.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for listening in on Editors in Exile. I'll try to get this video up today because people are still talking about Charlie Kirk, and it's
Yeah.
good that we got to talk about the Ukrainian refugee, which I believe her name was
Arena, Arena,
Ariane
and I.
Garuska,
Yeah, that sounds right.
and the murderer, DeCarlos Brown Jr. And then we also got to talk about 9/11, so that's really good.
I'm almost to a point that in these podcasts that I'll mention the name of the victims and anything. I really am getting resistant to wanting to propagate the names of those that do the crimes because it gives them it gives them more than 15 minutes of notoriety that they don't deserve. They don't
Yeah,
deserve to be recognized as far as I'm concerned. They
yeah,
deserve to be put away. And in some cases, the extreme penalty applied.
yeah. I
So
understand. Well,
I'm just an old coot and set in my old ways. I know.
alrighty, we'll end it here. I'll see you,
Older
Neil.
coot. I won't say old. Older coot. I'm
Older
not
cool.
70 yet, so hey.
Well, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and comment how good Neil looks. He needs it.
Don't forget Dondi, the young chocolate guy.
Yeah. All right, Neil.
All right, my friend. You have a good
All
day.
right, see you. Bye.